We are going to use our basic brioche recipe to make these delicious cinnamon and butter stuffed cinnamon buns. That is what's coming up today. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss out anytime I upload a new video or a new recipe. And the recipe for this will be in the description box below. So put your apron on and get ready because we are making these delicious brioche cinnamon buns. Now it's time to make some cinnamon rolls, or as I call them, cinnamon buns. Now, we've made the brioche bread. We've made both versions, both the regular version and the strawberry and cream cheese version. Now it's time to use the same master brioche dough to make a delicious buttery batch of cinnamon buns. Now, in this bowl, I have some softened butter. I have 6 tablespoons of softened butter, 2 teaspoons of ground cinnamon, and 1 tablespoon of flour, and a pinch of salt. And I am going to mix this together. It's going to be messy, but just mix it together. Now, here I have half a cup of a light brown sugar, and I'm going to add that right on in and give this a mix to combine. And because you all know I firmly believe in seasoning everything, I'm going to add in a teaspoon of vanilla extract. You don't have to use vanilla extract. You can use, smells good. You can use orange extract. You can use, depending on what you're making. You don't have to use cinnamon, by the way. You can use other things. But you can, whatever extract you add can reflect whatever you're making. And just mix this together till you have a very smooth butter, cinnamon, sugar paste mixture. It'll look somewhat like this. So I am going to set the cinnamon sugar mixture aside for now. I'll come back to that in a few minutes. And then we will begin making the cinnamon buns. Now, I just want to very lightly, with just a very little amount of bench flour, flour the board. And just set that down. And maybe just a bit on the rolling pin. You don't need much. And then just begin to roll. So start outward that way and then go up. This dough rolls beautifully, so you don't really have to stress about it springing back. It is thoroughly relaxed because of the amount of time that the dough was able to rise. If you rushed it, you would have something that would be less than obedient. So I'm just going to roll this out to a rectangle. I like working with brioche dough. It's so much fun. And it's so obedient too. It's not like other doughs. Other doughs can be very, very stubborn. Not brioche. Okay, so just roll the dough into a 17 by 14 rectangle, which is what this is. And there we are. You want to take the edges of it and just kind of smush it just a little bit. There's a purpose to this, but you really, really want to smush it. And that's a technical term. You can use the scraper to do it, but either way, that's how you want to do it. And now, just take this cinnamon mixture and right into it, just like that. Get every bit, I'm not leaving anything. We really are not leaving anything. And then I normally use my bench scraper for this. But for this small amount, I'm just going to use the spatula. But when you're making, gigantic batches of cinnamon buns, which I do, you kind of want to, introduce a method that makes it a little speedier and a little faster for you. A little easier too. If you have to make a lot of something, you want to be able to make it fairly quickly without a lot of fuss and, confusion or fussiness or whatever. Because the more fussy and uncomfortably fussy the dough or any recipe is, not necessarily technical, but fussy, the less likely you are to actually make a lot of it. Like, I'm trying to think of something that would fit that category. I was going to say macarons, but you would make those in a big batch anyway. Okay, just spread that last little bit out. Take your bench knife. This will help you. And then just right around the edge and do your first roll with the bench knife. And then you can do the remainder with your fingers. Or you can keep going with the bench knife. But roll it up. You want to roll it fairly tightly, but don't be obsessive about it. Okay, there we are. And then that bit that we smush, which you cannot see, but the bit that we smush, I'm just going to fold it over. And because it's already been slightly smushed, it sticks faster to the dough. And which is the reason why you smush that little bit. Okay. Now at this point, you can stretch it out to, if it sprung back a little, you can stretch it out and then roll it over. And there you have a log, which we will just cut into cinnamon buns. Okay. I have got a serrated knife that I'm going to cut these with. You can use dental floss, which you would just slip underneath and then pull it, and it will cut it very neatly, very cleanly. But that's fine if I'm doing a massive batch of them. That's what I do. But for this small batch, a serrated knife will do very nicely. So you just want to start really marking out your cinnamon buns before you actually cut them. This gives you some freedom to make adjustments. And I don't need to make any, so I'm just going to cut. Mind the fingers. I'm just going to cut my cinnamon buns. Now you can use the bench knife for this if you want to. You just need to be quick and decisive. If you're using the bench knife, be quick. Don't linger on it because it'll squish them down in a way you really don't want. It is difficult to make them spring back up again. So if you go the bench knife method, just go bam, 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 really, really quickly. Now I have a baking dish here that I have generously sprayed with baking spray. And I'm going to go ahead and start transferring my cinnamon buns, setting them cut side up right into the pan. So I've got 8 buns. So I've got to arrange them in a neat pattern. Which is not an easy thing to do, but I'm just going to be a little bit random today. A little bit random. Let's see here. I said I was going to be random, didn't I? Okay. There we are. They don't all have to be in neat little rows. Now, for the taller ones, you just give them a very, very light squish. This not only helps them not to rise and fall over, but it also helps them obtain a nicer cinnamon roll shape. So there we are. Because I see this quite a bit. What is the actual difference between a cinnamon bun and a cinnamon roll? And is there a difference? And the answer is yes. What I am making here is cinnamon buns. A cinnamon bun is a batch baked bun. They're all baked in one pan, and when they bake, they touch one another. Just like you're doing, like a batch of biscuits and you batch bake them in a pan. A cinnamon roll is single on a baking sheet. It doesn't have any other cinnamon buns touching it. That is cinnamon roll. That is a cinnamon roll. So if you see a single baked cinnamon roll that is perfectly browned all the way on the outside with no other bits of cinnamon roll sticking to it, that's a cinnamon roll. If you see them batch baked, they usually come out a little bit square or not perfectly round. That is a cinnamon bun. So what I am baking today is a cinnamon bun. So I'm going to cover these with plastic wrap and set these aside and let these girls prove. These cinnamon buns have proved nicely. Oh, wow. And as you can see, they have doubled in size. And if you poke them, they're nice and spongy feeling. So I'm just going to brush these with a little bit of that egg wash right around the edges. Same thing we brushed on the brioche, just a little egg wash right around the edges. Now these are going to bake in a preheated 360-degree Fahrenheit oven for about 25 to 30 minutes until they are nice and golden and baked all the way through. So into the oven, the cinnamon buns go. The cinnamon buns are done. They are out of the oven and they have cooled beautifully. Now they're still a little bit warm, which is the perfect time to glaze them. They're not hot, but they still have just that little bit of warm hanging around them. But this is a good time to put the vanilla glaze on them. Now this will just be a simple vanilla glaze. Now in the bakery, back when I used to make these by the speed rack, we would make a glaze with heavy cream and confectioner's sugar. And we also add some cream cheese in. But I'm just going to use milk and confectioner's sugar. Just because the heavy cream is good and it makes a very, very rich glaze. By the way, you want to add a little bit and then add a little bit more because you don't want to add too much. Too much of the milk can make it too thin. It doesn't take much. One thing I am going to add is a tiny pinch of salt. Just a tiny pinch of salt. That's good. A little bit of salt brings out the flavor of the glaze. So the heavy cream, the glaze will not harden. And that's enough milk. We don't need any more milk. That was about a decent tablespoon. So the confectioner's, the heavy cream makes confectioner's glaze a little bit softer. So if you don't want a glaze that gets hard to the touch, use heavy cream. If you want a glaze that gets a little firmer, use milk. And if you want a glaze that gets very hard, use water. So dependent on what you want, use whichever one. Okay, mix that in. Beautiful. Now it's time to glaze these cinnamon buns. And I'm just going to pour it right on top of each cinnamon buns in a swirly pattern. And some like glaze, some don't like glaze, some like heavy glaze, some like a thin glaze. It all depends. There she goes. They are all glazed and ooh, they look so good. Can't wait to try one. These are going to be such a yummy treat. We have our annual family reunion in August, and these will be delicious to serve to my family. I know they are going to, as we like to say, they're going to tear them up. And I hope you will give this recipe a try and serve it to your friends and family and watch them tear them up, because these brioche cinnamon buns are a delicious treat any day, at any time, with a glass of milk or a cup of tea. However you enjoy them, I hope you give the recipe a try. If you do, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. And the good Lord willing, I will see you guys again in another video. Take care, y'all. Bye.